Hi guys, Seth Cooley here, and I hope you were with us this last week as we talked about parenting and really about vibrant Christianity and just the kind of things that God is calling us into in this journey with Him. And as we talked a lot about it, we recognize that these three areas, anxiety, fear, and control, they really play into the kind of parent and the decisions that I make when I'm parenting. And so I'm just wondering with you, like, what kind of a parent am I when I allow those things to rule my life? Like, I look back and I think, I could have made some better decisions if I had invited God into that. Or maybe it's because of how you were parented out of anxiety or fear and control, and it's changed the way that you've parented, almost trying to be the opposite. And, there might be some hurts to heal from or some forgiveness to be able to extend to your parent in these areas. And so then we talked about this great exchange, where God would give us peace, and He would give us security, and He would give us freedom in place of anxiety, fear, and control. And in the scriptures it says that God would give beauty for ashes, and He would give us joy instead of mourning. And He's always in this business of exchanging the good that He has for us for that thing that we think is what we need. And what I want you to think about is, like, what kind of a parent would I be if I took the things that God wanted to give me in my parenting? Or maybe as a child who's being parented, this is a really tough assignment, to have this part of your life where other people are making a lot of decisions for you, and it can be easy for us to want to run from that and just get out. But what does God want to teach me during this season, and how can I pray for that person who's parenting maybe? And this anxiety and fear and control, trading that for peace and freedom and security that God offers. So I hope that you'll check out the sermon if you haven't watched it already. And now I want to just ask you a few questions for this week. So the first one would be, if I'm struggling in one of those areas, like, which one is it? Is it fear that's a struggle? Is it anxiety that's a struggle? Or is it my control? I have to say personally, to answer that question, I struggle in controlling. Like, I want, being a pastor, like, I think about how my kids, like, the image of them affects people that are watching. And so sometimes I try to control their behavior. And I felt as a parent sometimes out of control. And it's just so odd because I don't see myself as a controlling person. So trying to be a controlling parent, I was definitely outside of how God created me to be. And so I've had to ask God into a lot more freedom in my life and allowing me to see that He's in control, that He's got my kids, He loves my kids. And so how about for you? Is it anxiety, fear, or control? And then the second question would be, how could you invite God into that? Like, I mentioned freedom. I ask God for more freedom. And then I tell God, like, I'm going to release my kids to you. So how could you, if it's fear, how could you say, hey, God, would you help me with my fears for what might happen with my kids? If it's anxiety, just looking at so many promises of God where we can lessen our anxiety just by seeing what's true about what God says about us, our world, and our kids. And if it's control, like, there's a way that we can invite God into that too. And lastly, where in your life do you see anemic Christianity? So we talked about this vibrant Christianity and the circle, and anemic Christianity is where I'm kind of lacking that, like, where God might want to show up in my life. So would that be like in my parenting? Is that where it's at? Is it in the way that I treat my husband or my wife? Maybe it's in the time that I spend with God. Like, maybe I'm not attending to that. I'm anemic about it instead of seeking vibrancy in that personal relationship. It could be in your workplace or in your friendships, your hobbies. So where is that place where there's anemic Christianity that I want to ask God, could you make that vibrant? Could you fill that with life so that I can just be more vibrant as a follower of Christ? And last of all, I just want to give you an assignment. Corey did a leadership talk on April 25th. And if you missed that, you should go back and watch it. If you watched it, what my challenge for you is go back and watch it and say, how does leadership relate to parenting? Because maybe when you were listening to the sermon, you were thinking about your leadership role at work or your leadership role in the church or in home. But what about specifically in the way of parenting? How can I lead well following those principles from that sermon in my parenting. So that's your assignment for this week. Boy, it was just a joy speaking to you guys, and I'm excited about what God's going to bring about in this Healthy Home series, and just so happy to see what God's doing. Have a good week.